In our last example for loans, I want to look at credit cards. Now, credit cards are short-term loans with very high interest rates. Now, interest accrues if you don't pay off your balance each month. Generally, if you pay off your balance, you aren't going to be charged interest. Now, it depends on the card, but generally that's the case. So credit cards, those companies generally are hoping that you will leave a little bit of balance in there because that's where they make their money, because they're going to charge a high interest rate on the balance that's left in if you don't pay it off. And therefore, they don't put a requirement in to pay off your balance in a certain set amount of time, because they ideally would like you to have a balance in there that they can earn interest on. So they actually don't put a requirement that you have to pay that off in a certain amount of time. And also, required monthly payments generally only cover the interest and maybe a little bit of the principal, but mostly it's all about, with their required monthly payments, getting their interest out of you. Because again, for them to make money, if you keep a balance, that's where they get their money from, is that balance earns interest for them, and that's what you'll be paying them. So with credit cards, it's always in your best interest, if you can, to pay off your balance each month so you can avoid any interest that you would have to pay on it. And if you do end up not being able to pay it off, be aware that that required monthly payment, it's best if you can pay more than that, because you want to start paying off what you owe to try to get out of that high interest situation. Let's look at an example of a credit card balance and how we might look at paying it off. So suppose you have a balance of $4,679 on your Visa credit card. The APR for this credit card is 20%. Notice that's a much higher interest rate than we looked at for either car loans or home loans. Credit cards tend to be at least double or triple what it would be for other types of loans in terms of their interest rate. Now, you decide that you're going to stop using this Visa card until you've got the balance paid off, until you've got the balance down to zero. So let's work out what your monthly payment would be if you wanted to pay off the credit card in 2 years. So we're going to use the standard payment formula we've been using for all loans. Start with an equals PMT for payment. We're going to put in our interest rate, 0.20. Now that's the yearly rate, so we're going to divide that by 12 for a monthly payment, comma 12 times, now we're paying this off in years, so that would be 12 months for 2 years, so 12 times 2, comma, we want to pay off $4,679, and we want it to pay down to zero by the end. So my last two entries are the balance we have, comma, that we want to pay down to zero. So this payment formula, putting it into a spreadsheet, will give you that you need to pay $238.14 per month if you really want to pay this off in the course of 2 years. Now, how much interest will you have paid in the course of those 2 years? We can work that out by looking at the total amount we've paid, $238.14 every month, so times 12 for 2 years, comes out to paying off $5,715.36. That's the total that was paid, but the interest is going to be the part of that that is not what we owed. So to find the interest, we would subtract the amount that we owed on the account, $4,679. So the interest ends up being $1,036.36. So my interest that I pay over the course of the 2 years to pay off the credit card is $1,000 basically. Notice that's almost a fourth of what the balance is, and that's partly because this APR is so high. That 20% is much higher than it would be for a car loan or a home loan. Now, let's look at an alternate situation for this. Let's look at what we would have to pay if we wanted to pay the balance off in 1 year instead of 2. And let's compare what our monthly payment would be and how much we would save in interest compared to the last scenario. So if I wanted to pay this off in 1 year, I would take my payment formula that I had up above, this payment formula, and I'm going to adjust it slightly. How I would have to adjust it if I wanted to pay off in 1 year is I would not do anything with the interest rate. The interest rate stays the same. It's really the year that would change. So here I had 12 times 1, or sorry, 2 for 2 years. I want to have 12 times 1 for 1 year. We're still paying off the same amount, and we want to pay it down to 0. So the one thing that changes here is we go from 2 years to 1 year. So otherwise, it's pretty much the same scenario. So my payment is going to be $433.44 per month. Now that's much higher than we had before. When we paid it off in 2 years, we had to pay $238.14. When we pay it off in 1 year, we have to pay $433.44. It's a little less than double the amount. And it's a little less than double because, remember, if you pay it off in less time, you're going to end up paying less interest. How much less interest? Well, let's work it out. In this scenario, we're paying $433.44 every month for 1 year. So that would be times 12 times 1, or just simply times 12, means that I end up paying a total of $5,201.28. That's the total amount paid. If I subtract from that the initial amount of the balance for the credit card, that means that my interest that I paid was equal to $522.28. So that means if I do this other scenario, this scenario where I pay off in 1 year, I pay the difference between this, 1,036 and 522, I pay $514.08 less in interest if I pay this loan off in 1 year versus in 2 years. So I pay $514.08 less. So again, with loans, generally you're better off being able to pay it back faster because in the long run you'll pay less interest. However, you also have to balance that with what can you afford. If you can only afford to pay $238 a month, then it's better to do that and eventually get it paid off. If you can afford the $433 a month, then great, pay it off in a year and actually owe less interest. You just have to look at your situation to see what's best for you.